Hi everybody, welcome to Encounters with the Soul with Michael Stein here. And today I want to talk about messages in the body. What is your body trying to tell you? My belief system is there are four different aspects to self. One is the physical body, and two is the mental body. And these are the two bodies or aspects to self that our allopathic medical system tends to focus on the most. I'd like to talk more about the spiritual body and the emotional body, with particular emphasis on the emotional body today. Those are the four aspects that make up the whole. And why is that important? In my previous videos, you've heard me talk about energy. And energy to me is a vibration. That's all it is. Every living cell, every living thing, everything that's even a rock, always has a vibration to it. There's something about that. Energy doesn't quit. It doesn't die. It gets stored. And so there's an aspect to self that I believe and want to bring forth as part of the conversation, which is that we are powerful beings. So what we think, what we believe, and what we feel, we actually create in the world and manifest. And that takes shape in physical form. It can take shape first, though, in emotional form. And it's the emotional form that can manifest that into a physical form, which is part of what dis-ease is all about. So dis-ease, or something that becomes a discord in self. And these are things that can become more powerful as we develop patterns in our life, as we age. And so what I want to do is just introduce this topic today, and I want to be vulnerable with you to talk about some of those things for me that have shown up in my life at an emotional level that has manifested itself at the physical level. And these are messages in the body for me, and it's taken me years to come to this. And the easiest place to start is my vision. I had issues with my vision, gosh, I think I was probably 11 or 12 years old when it really became pronounced, and I'd be squinting, really loudly squinting at the board in school and not being able to read, but thinking that that was just normal for me. I was very nearsighted. And one of the things that nearsightedness that they say is that which is very true for me in context, is that I had a fear of what the future would bring. And so, being a child, I was a Toys R Us kid. I didn't want to grow up. I was scared. I had a low self-esteem. There were issues in my life that I had a hard time working through. My foundation in school, because it was so difficult for me to learn in the same way that the school system would teach. There were just a number of different factors in play, like how am I going to survive in this world? In contrast, people who have farsightedness, as an example, generally what that can mean is that there's a fear of really the present, like right now. And as a child or children with eye problems, it's not altogether uncommon that kids with eye problems typically have a hard time wanting to see what's really going on inside of the family. Like there may be some family dynamic that is difficult to see or emotionally disruptive, and over time that can create some issues. And that's not to say that there aren't environmental issues as well, or genetic issues, physical challenges that can also contribute to eye problems, but there's an emotional consideration and contribution to this as well, and it's very important to keep that in mind. Another issue that I've faced in my life is issues with my feet. You know, when I was young, I played a lot of soccer. I was very active. Even played cross-country running for a while, just to stay in shape. I was very competitive with soccer. I thought I was going to be a professional soccer player even. I really wanted that. That was the one thing that gave me so much joy, and I was actually really good at it. And my feet, though, just gave me such a problem, and I had literally cracked 2 bones, like on the ball of each foot. Even cracked my heel plates at one point, too. So just chronic issues with my feet, so bad that it actually affected the way that I ran, and I invented a new way of running to avoid pain, which affected my hips, and it caused me problems. And as I analyze and self-reflect on some of the patterns in my life that I've shared in previous videos, what's come to me is my foundation, that for which didn't feel strong, my foundation for which my sense of self, the way I handled my emotions, the support structure, people around me were not having the proper support that perhaps I needed or wanted, but couldn't communicate. And so these are other impacts that can translate into what feet issues might be. The feet issue down here kind of represents the first chakra as well, which is very survival foundational in nature. So that had been a chronic issue for me as well, and that worked up to affect my hips because I invented that new way of running. I had pain in my hips, and pain in hips generally can manifest itself as well when there's challenges in self and knowing what decisions to make moving forward in life. A fear of making those decisions and taking that step forward, definitely something that's been a problem for me in the past. Another issue that I faced, liver. My liver has been, I'm functionally fine. I have no problems. I'm taking 2 life insurance physical exams. Both times they do a physical blood work on me, and there was a particular enzyme in the liver. I don't remember which one it was. Both times there were 4 times the elevated amount that they should have been. And so when I spoke to a gastrointestinal doctor about that, his response to me was, well, that basically indicates a beginning of the cirrhosis of the liver, or that there was an alcoholic problem or some drug issue of some kind, which was really surprising to me, being that I don't do drugs. I've never done any drugs before, but I have certainly drank alcohol. I've had my time in college, but when I took these tests, it had been years since I've drank. I maybe drink 3 or 4 times a year today, and even then. So it didn't really answer why my liver would be in such despair, but it did give me, as I began to explore more of the spiritual realm and emotional realms of who I am and why is it that I don't feel quite right? Why is there this discord? I recognized that the level of anger that I carried was so great, and that the liver generally it represents and stores most of where your anger is kept. And so as I begin to practice Reiki as a Reiki master, I have been able to see these patterns in other people as well that hold similar issues. In context, there are other contributing factors physically as well, as I mentioned, but the emotional component is definitely one that deserves weight to be looked at. So liver holding anger for me is definitely very real. So that's been a pattern as well, and I've been releasing that anger, and so I'm eager to have that next test, and I'm eager to share with you those results. Moving on, my lungs. Grew up actually born with asthma. As I grew up, I started releasing some of the symptoms to a certain extent, but had exercise-induced asthma as a consequence of growing. I developed more, which was great. So I see that there was a physical component there. And as I've become more engaged with energy work, it's been very clear to me that lungs are where grief is stored. Grief is represented by, defined by an undeserved loss, or an unnecessary loss is probably more appropriate. And in my life, I felt like that there was a lot of unnecessary loss, and a lot of grief, and who knows what I was born into this world that I carried from a past life, and that grief has subsided as I've aged, as I've been able to deal with that and grow with it. So these are examples of how dis-ease or chronic issues can be manifested into the body. So I'd like to phase back to you the same question: is what messages are there for you? What is it trying to tell you? Is it your digestion? Is it indigestion, which may represent an absolute terror or fear of a recent event or a current event or something coming up? Or perhaps there are bowel problems that you may be facing, which is representative of difficulty in letting something go, an old belief or an idea that you're holding on to that may be a hard thing to let go in the moment. What is it for you that you may be experiencing? And if you're not sure what it might mean, or you're interested in knowing what that emotionally could mean, reach out to me, comment below, I'll respond. It doesn't mean that it's a one-size-fits-all. It's all context. It depends on the situation, on your environment, physical body, on your mental body, on your spiritual body, on your emotional body. So typically that requires a conversation. Typically that requires some kind of imprint when I engage with you to understand what that may be. And it's not 100%. And expand your horizons. That's what this is all about, is self-awareness and understanding that this world is much bigger than we think it is. It's not just the physical body, it's not just the mental body. There's emotional and there's spiritual, and that is what I'm eager to bring together, find with myself, and have that dialogue with others. Thank you for joining. This is Michael Stein signing off with Encounters of the Soul. Thank you.